All right, so this week we are continuing with our barbecue grill. We added a rack for the food to go onto, and we painted everything black. We put a nice finished outer shell on the top and on the firebox. So stay tuned and see how fun and easy this project is. All right, we are going to start by making the rack that's going to fit inside our grill so the dolls can put their food on it to cook it. So to prepare for this, I've done a few things off camera because I knew it would be fiddly and I knew it would take me a while to get it the right size. So I have, these are all cut, these pieces are all cut from the slim sticks, which are Hobby Lobby's version of the skinny sticks. I have cut 3 that fit nice and snugly across like that, and you want them snug. And then I've cut 2 that are the length, that are just a little shy of the length of my grill inside. So I can set my grill off to the side. I also have some toothpicks here to the side. Those we'll talk about in a little bit. Then I have a piece of 8 squares to the inch graph paper, which I have actually covered with a piece of clear packing tape. That way my stuff will not stick. I want to have a nice square surface to lay this out on so that everything is put together nice and square. All my corners meet at the right angles. And I'm going to tape it to my surface. And I'm going to tape one of these long pieces down right along one of those lines. And I want to avoid the very center and the very ends. It's sticking to me. And if you don't have everyone watching you on camera, you'll probably be able to line this up pretty quickly. But do take your time. You know, make sure you've got it the way you want it, because these first pieces that we're gluing down, how square they are is going to affect how this fits. All right, now I'm going to take one of these. I have some tacky glue, and I am going to put the glue on it. I'm going to put this right here, and I'm lining it up with this line and lining it up at that edge, right at the end of that board. And that's nice and square, and I am going to, after I turn the camera off, I'm going to get my head right over it to double check that I have everything square. I want to make sure these corners are the right angle so that everything will fit. All right, and then this glue is going to need to dry, and I'm not even going to do the middle one yet. I'm going to just do these 2 and let this dry. So this needs to dry completely, and then I'll be back and we'll go to the next step. All right, I went off and did a few things, and now this glue is dry enough that we can work on the other side. So I've got my glue here, and I just cover it with another container. I've got this piece, and I'm going to dip both ends into the glue, and now this is being held straight. So all I have to do is very carefully, without breaking the connections I've already made, work. Oh, it came untaped. It's okay as long as I line up everything. Get that all lined up. Get it lined up at the end. I will make sure it's completely straight off camera, and then I'm going to let that, well, yeah, we're going to let that dry before we go on to the next step. So let's let that dry and then I'll be back. All right, my glue is set up, so now I'm going to carefully put this third piece about in the middle. I'm going to eyeball it. And this one is just a little bit shorter so it doesn't go all the way to the ends. And there we go. Now this needs to set up completely because we're actually going to take this off of here, flip it over, tape it down, and start putting our toothpick pieces on. So I'll be back when this dries. All right, this has dried overnight and I removed the tape, so it's now loose. And now I'm going to put it right here, and I'm actually going to tape it down. Again, there's my tape. I thought for a second I'd put my tape someplace stupid. I'm going to line it up. And we're going to work from the center out. And to get this up again, I will probably end up cutting the tape. But this way it will stay in place while I'm working. Then I measured this area here. And I thought about going lengthwise, but my toothpicks aren't long enough, so I decided maybe not as realistic to have the grills go, the racks going this direction, but I'm going to do them this way because I can cut my toothpicks. If you have toothpicks long enough, as you can see, if I had the long, like there's some hors d'oeuvre ones that are a little bit longer. If I had long enough ones, I would go that way, but I don't. So I'm going to go this way today. So I am going to start by dipping, what I was starting to say, I cut one to length to go across, and there may be a few that are a little long, like that one is. So I've got my easy cutter here. I'm gonna try to cut them as I go to get them just exactly where I need them. And then I used one to mark off the rest. So I'm going to dip both ends in glue. Oops. And don't worry, I won't make you watch me do the entire thing here. This one's a little long, and that's all right. After I get done, I can always go back and trim those ends. I'll show you that. If need be, we can do that when we get all done. But because I've got the graph paper under there, I can kind of use that to line up. And this will be easier for you because you'll be able to have your head directly over. This one's going to need a little bit more. Better to cut them too long to begin with than not long enough. Ah, everything's sticking to my fingers. That's fine. Dip both ends in the glue. I want that over just a little bit. I don't like that gap. Pick a distance and then stick to it for your gap. I'm only going to do probably one more, and then I'm going to let this glue dry so that I won't be dislodging the pieces as I work. And I have no idea how many toothpicks this is going to take, so I'll put that out there right now. I really don't know. All right, that's a start. So I'm going to stop for now. I'm going to let this dry, and I think off camera I'll go ahead and fill the entire top of this with my pieces. When that is done, I'll come back and we'll do any trimming we need to and go on to our next step. All right, the glue is now dried overnight. What I did was I worked on this pretty much all afternoon. I kept my glue covered on my tray, and I would come over, I would put down 2 or 3 of these little pieces of wood. Then I'd walk away and let it dry. Every time I walked past the table, I kind of added 1 or 2 until I got them all on. And then I let it dry overnight, because for this next step, we need it completely dry. I did free it from the Scotch tape already. And I've got my little cutting mat here. So I've already started to trim off this side, but I'm going to show you on this side. So turn it back over upside down. Brace it really carefully, and if you have any sticking past the end, very carefully cut them off. And that will do a lot of your trimming. That will get it down pretty close to where we need it. And you can kind of you can look at it, and you can also use your fingers to feel it. Then I have some 80 grit sandpaper. Again, bracing it with your fingers and just sand back and forth. This is why we need that glue to be completely dry. And what we're going to do is we're going to sand it back until it fits into the grill that we made last week. And it's going to need a little sanding off. You're going to need to sand back probably a little bit on these slim sticks, and definitely on those, kind of angle them. But get it sanded back until it fits, which I'm going to do off camera because this is going to take me a while, and that noise can be kind of annoying. So when I get this fitting in here, I will come back and we will go to the next step. All right, I have sanded this off on the edges so that it now fits really snugly. If I can line it up just perfectly on that little ledge that we've got in our grill, and it fits, it will pop in. I've done this multiple times now, and it sits in there really nicely, and the lid closes. We've got a nice close on the side of the lid, and now we are going to cover the outside of our grill. So I'm going to put this off to the side in a safe place. And I've got some heavyweight white cardstock. This is not the same as what we've been using. This is marked as heavy cardstock. And I'll try on the blog post to have the papers done by weight. I'll try to have that on the blog post if I can find it. But I've cut 2 small pieces today, and we're going to need more of that next week. So keep track of your rest of your sheet. So I've cut a small strip that's 1 1/8 wide by about 4 1/4 long. We want it to wrap around our side firebox and overlap just a bit. Then we have one that's 3 1/8 by 3, and we're only covering the top half, not the part with the ledge in it, but the top half. And 3 1/8 is what it took to get it to go side to side and fit really nice and snug. And the 3 inches will get me from the edge all the way and just overlap just the smallest amount there. So I am going to start by running a bead of glue, and we're going to do this in stages. I'm actually going to glue directly on here. But I want to get this started. And I'm going to line it up with that. I'm lining it up really carefully with where I cut the tube. And center it. If it hangs over the ends just like a tiny fraction, that's fine. A lot of times these grills do that. And I'm going to lay it here and let it dry. Now I'm going to do the same thing with this. It doesn't matter where you start on this, but it will overlap by a little bit, and we'll deal with that in a little bit. Right now, I just want to get this on nice and straight and centered so that when I come back, that will be anchored. And I'm going to let that glue dry completely before I go on to attaching this on, because I want it to stay put. So I'll be back when the glue dries. All right, this glue has had plenty of time to dry. In fact, I did this yesterday afternoon. So now I'm going to use a toothpick and spread more tacky glue. Now, I thought about this yesterday, kind of all afternoon, off and on. What kind of glue do I want to use? Because Mod Podge would be easier, but I don't want to take a chance on getting this paper too wet and making it bubble, although this is less apt to bubble. My other option would be some of our miniature Dollhouse wallpaper paste, but I know a lot of you don't have that. If you're not currently building a dollhouse, you might not have that. So I decided to just go with the tacky glue because I want a really firm hold. This is going to be our finished surface. We're going to there. And I will come back in a little bit and make sure that it's holding really well. And I'm just going to do the same thing on this piece and glue it around. And this is cut so that there will be a ledge, a little bit of extra paper to kind of cover the front to make a nice, neat looking front to our grill. So I'm going to get this glue on. There will be a picture of these on the blog post right after I glue them. And when this glue dries, I'll come back and we can go to our next step. All right, my glue is dried, and now this top edge has a nice smooth, even edge on it. It looks really good. So we're gonna start painting the inside of this, and we're also gonna start painting this and a rack. I just have some black acrylic paint. I've put down a piece of wax paper on my surface just to protect it so that I can go from one project to another easily today. And this is probably going to take a couple of coats. So I'm not going to make you watch me do the whole thing. We're just going to start. And it will take a little time to get paint worked into all the little crevices there. I'll finish that later. I'm going to paint both the ends, I think, right now, and then I'll paint the surface when I get this part dry. And I will paint both just in case any of it shows on the side we're going to be gluing. Then on this one, we are going to paint the entire inside, including our hinge and including that ledge that we created. The black matte paint will, well, first off, it'll look like a grill because most of these big grills are black inside, both inside and outside. And the inside especially gets black once you light a fire in it. We're going to save the outside for after the inside is finished. So I am going to turn the camera off. I'm going to do my very best to get this entire inside coated with a nice even coat of black paint covering all the white, all the wood spots, everything. If I need to, I will put a second coat on. I'll also make sure I get the whole top of this done and make sure I don't have any drips there. And when this is all dry, I'll come back. We'll do the other side of everything, and then we can move on to anything else we're going to get done today. So I'll see you when the inside paint is dry. All right, I'm pretty happy with the coat of paint I've got there. So now I'm going to flip this over. I am going to use my brush because it looks like I've got a little bubble of paint between there. So let's get that cleaned up and flip that over. I've put more paint out. Try not to get too much paint on these outside edges, just a very light brushing, because even a coat of paint could make this so it doesn't want to go in. We do have this fit pretty, ideally we have it fit pretty tightly. I did find that my dotting tool was very helpful in holding that still. So I'm going to finish painting that. I'm going to paint the outside of this side firebox. Be sure and get underneath because I purposely left that edge just a little bit, not the very end of it, not sealed down, so that it will look like a lid that's closed on that. That firebox, in case I haven't mentioned, is not going to open on the finished barbecue. It's just going to have a handle put onto it. We're going to paint this. And this top half of the grill shouldn't bubble at all. The bottom half might with the lighter paper. The inside did a little, but it looks like as it dried, it got tight. The paper tightened up again. But even if it does, it won't really show. So I am going to get everything painted on the other side, including the hinge. I may or may not need 2 coats. It depends on how this goes on. When this is all coated, I'll come back and we'll see how it looks. All right, I think my paint is all dry on everything, and I think this is as far as we're going to get today. Because I looked over my footage I've got so far, and we've already got a fairly long video. I don't want to go too much longer. So we have the beginnings of our barbecue grill. I'm thinking this is looking pretty darn cool. I hope that you all agree also. Next week we will be working on the bottom half. What makes this stand up? I'm not sure if we've got 1 or 2 more weeks on this project. I might divide the remainder into 2 parts. I'm not sure. But I hope you're enjoying the project so far. Be sure and hop over to the blog post for photos and such. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, be sure and hit that subscription button and the notification bell so you know when I put up a new video. Oh, and be sure and interact with the video. Comment, like it, comment, share it. Let's get lots of people seeing this series. I thank you very much for watching today, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.